Hello, everyone. This is the final project part two, and my name is Abel Mendoza. This is Department of Business from California Intercontinental University. The course is the BUS 416 Business Negotiation, and the professor is Dr. George Eckerman. And of course, today is Friday, December 18th of 2020. The topic for this presentation is the deferred action for childhood arrival, known as DACA, and of course, immigration. First and foremost, we're going to identify the conflict and negotiation issues about this scenario that we're talking about. The Trump administration has significantly affected the lives of 652,888 DACA recipients who have resided in the 50 states, Washington, D.C., and the U.S. territories, including Guam, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, to name a few. It is also important to note that 81% have lived in the United States for more than 15 years. And given these facts, and that among children born in the U.S. under 18 years, 346,455 have at least one DACA recipient or parent, and 95% of DACA recipients are employed. Unpathetically, the Trump administration repealed the DACA program in September of 2017. Given the above facts, it is apparent that the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival Act has been a sense of security to those who have lived in the country for more than 15 years. Also, DACA has created a sense of belonging that allows young Americans to pursue higher education to achieve a better job opportunity. Therefore, negotiating a legislative package that will initiate or reinstate DACA benefits and create a path to citizenship can alleviate the current DACA and immigration conflict in the U.S. How can we assess the situation? One of the vital elements of the conflict involved is the belief that young immigrants who were brought to the United States by their parents illegally can have DACA reinstated with a path to citizenship so that DACA recipients can be protected from deportation. However, the Trump administration believes that for DACA recipients to have a temporary extension, funds must be released to build a wall in the border of Mexico and the United States. Um, the White House also believes that funds will also prevent more immigrants from entering the country illegally and keep the nation safe. The parties involved in their relationships are, you know, obviously the Trump administration, Democrats and Republicans, uh, now President-elect Joe Biden, and of course bipartisan negotiators, the Supreme Court, and last but not least, the DACA and immigration activists. Um, It is important to mention that the President elect Joe Biden believes that immigrants are a source of economic benefit um, to the nation, especially after the global pandemic. While some Republicans and the Trump administration do not agree with that idea, instead of showcasing factual evidence of their arguments, anti DACA and immigration leaders' interests do not provide a vivid explanation of how the economy would move forward without immigrant labor. The current alternatives that we have are as follow. So again, however, bipartisan negotiators are optimistic about leveraging a bill that will satisfy both the economy and illegal immigrants who continually contribute to the nation's economic growth. On the other hand, DACA and immigration activists are adamant about showcasing how DACA recipients and other illegal immigrants are moral individuals that impact the nation's economy significantly. Also, illegal recipients are known as the Dreamers, who only recognize America as their home. Therefore, enacting legislation that will provide a smooth transition to citizenship for DACA recipients or Dreamers is much needed on Capitol Hill. There are some power struggles to mention in this negotiation. Of course, it is apparent that the executive office has demonstrated that it has more power over the Democrats, DACA and immigration activists, and even the bipartisan negotiators. The Supreme Court, however, has stopped the Trump administration from revoking DACA completely, thus preventing the president from evasive actions to get their way. However, Congress men and women are in charge of elaborating a bill that will satisfy DACA and immigration recipients and the executive office. Leveraging the Dreamers into the mist also elicits an opportunity to negotiate President Trump's funds to build a wall and reinforce border security. Negotiating in good faith, threats, and ethical behavior. Democrats appeared to rebuttal against President Trump's request to fund the construction of the wall between Mexico and the United States, which increased border security in exchange for allowing the Dreamers to stay, at least for a while. Whereas the Democrats' priority is to make sure DACA recipients remain in the United States, not just for a while, of course. In this scenario, both parties appear to be ethical about their underlying interests. Merging each party's priorities, however, will allow for a mutual agreement. Besides, more explicit instructions from the White House can also remove the elusive atmosphere perceived by the Democrats in Congress, thus allowing lawmakers from the House of Representatives and the Senate to create a sound legislative package that allocates each underlying interest more effectively. Besides, in 2017, President Trump attempted to end DACA, as we already have mentioned, a threat that was eventually stopped by the Supreme Court, of course. Although the Trump administration was stopped by the Supreme Court, in essence, President Donald Trump demonstrated that he has the executive power at his disposal. The latter is a relevant element to take into account when negotiating with the White House. Um, in this negotiation, Raifa's theories apply to the negotiation. In the DACA and immigration negotiation, the negotiators have also showcased how Howard Raifa's theories, which is the multi-party theory, coalitions, and teams, are vividly employed in this negotiation. So, for example, the House of Representatives and the Senate are large bodies that form a multi party negotiation to create legislative packages for the nation's betterment, thus alluding to a more accurate judgment when negotiating compared to individuals. Also, Republicans form a coalition between both the House of Representatives and the Senate. In other words, they both venture into uniting resources to exert a superior influence um, on the DACA and immigration bill currently being negotiated, as mentioned above. On the other hand, no third party intervention is apparent in the above negotiation. However, the only transparent intervention in the DACA and immigration negotiation is the Supreme Court that had stopped President Trump from completely removing DACA benefits. Um, Cultural differences. There is currently a partisan division between Democrats and Republicans in Congress. Perhaps this may be due to the White House's unethical and inhuman climate, given the facts on the DACA and immigration issues and the reported separation of immigrant children from their biological parents. Although congressmen and women are highly educated individuals, there is still biased political unrest in Washington, D.C. Um, by expanding alternatives and electronic communication. Some of the by expanding alternatives that the parties could consider are finding a way to unify each branch, starting with the executive office, then followed by the House of Representatives and the Senate, perhaps starting with perspective dialogues where each party attempts to see the the counter the counterparty's needs through the counterparty eyes would be a great start. Again, the interests and priorities must also be presented from each side of the negotiating table, thus defining the underlying interests and priorities, not each other's, not each party's position. Excuse me. Nevertheless, finding the pie expanding alternatives is essential in the above negotiation, but arriving at a win win agreement must be the ultimate goal. Um, on the other hand, electronic communication has also played a relevant role in the DACA and immigration issues. For example, President Trump tweeted saying that dreamers were good, educated, and accomplished young individuals who also aid in the armed forces. For those reasons, they should stay in America. Then Republicans and Democrats were pressured to come together to work on the DACA and immigration bill because it is an urgent matter now. So now we may conclude this presentation. Again, the DACA and immigration is a must negotiating endeavor that assesses a positive potential opportunity to society, young and adult immigrants with good moral character in the United States. Congressmen and women must come together to leverage each resource and create a legislature that protect DACA recipients and creates a path to citizenship. As a result, the group called Dreamers can finally be embraced as part of this great nation known as their home. Perhaps the worst outcome would be to continue with a false conflict where everyone in Congress, whether the Republicans or the Democratic parties, believe it exists. In other words, they appear to think that there is an illusory conflict when it is a mutual conflict that needs lawmakers to come together, excuse me, use their resources and compromise to complete the work needed for a useful legislative package, that is to say, alluding to bipartisanship. Therefore, an outside the box mentality may be the order of the day in Washington, D.C. Thus, the parties involved must go beyond the status quo and think strategically in an innovative fashion to deter regression and uphold uh, progression, achieving effectiveness in every step of the DACA and immigration negotiation process. And of course, we have the references that were employed to present this negotiation presentation. We continue to showcase the references employed also from the text and other sources as well. I thank you so much for your time and opportunity to showcase this presentation. I hope it has been of value to you and those that are going to listen to this. And thank you, Professor Eckerman, for the feedback provided throughout this course. I really appreciate it. Personally, it has impacted my life significantly, so that in a way I have improved my negotiation skills and strategies up to this point. Thank you.